Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of The Comic Book Nerd. This is episode 3, and I thank you so much for joining me if this is your first time, and if you're back, welcome back. Please tell your friends, spread the word, and let's get right into this. First things first, it's plug time. Go to the website. It's comicbooknerd.net. You can go to the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/The Comic Book Nerd Podcast. Remember to please go give that a like. And you can follow me on Twitter at the CB Nerd. That's for the show. You can follow my personal Twitter, which is also going to tweet out the nerdy stuff, but you're also going to get some of the other stuff, sports stuff. I'm a depressed Browns fan, and of course, if any of you know sports and saw what the Browns did this weekend with Johnny Manziel, it was pretty depressing. That's at eRalphieW if you feel like following me there. And again, the blog too is thecomicbooknerd.blogspot.com. I got a big show for you here. We're going to talk Godzilla. There's a reason for that. We'll get into that in just a minute here. I'm going to break down Avengers and X-Men Axis number 7, the big event out of Marvel right now. Speaking of Marvel, Marvel just crushed it this week. We're also going to talk Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. mid-season finale. It was huge, and I'm going to explain what happened there. No spoilers just yet. You'll know when there's spoilers. I'm going to explain what you saw if you are wondering what exactly it is that you saw. I'm going to talk about a new mobile game out right now, Marvel Contest of Champions. I'm going to help you get to know Daisy Johnson, a.k.a. Quake. And we'll see what else there's time for. So without any more stalling or whatever, let's get right into this. The topic again for this week is Godzilla. Well, let me start by saying this. The topic this week was going to be movie monsters in general, because it's all in honor of the fact that Toho, the studio that created Godzilla, just announced a new Godzilla movie. The old series, like not, they just made the new one with Gareth Edwards in 2000 this year, 2000 this year, 2014, and they've got a sequel coming for that. But the actual company that made the old Godzilla movies, the guy in the costume and all that stuff, Toho, has announced that because of his new heightened return of popularity, they're going to make a new movie. So I thought, oh, what a perfect time to talk movie monsters. So I had posed a question to people: who's the best movie monster of all time? I was expecting, get a healthy debate going on here, and at the end, settle and crown one guy as, the best movie monster of all time. Well, it turns out it wasn't even a worthy contest. I'm not joking. Nearly every single person that I spoke to, whether it was asking them on Reddit, asking them on forums, asking them in person, asking everybody I could find, Godzilla, I'm not even exaggerating, about 99% of the votes went for Godzilla, so it immediately became, okay, well, I'm just going to be talking about Godzilla, so I changed the subject to just Godzilla. It is just about him this week. The king of the monsters returning to theaters from Toho. And the exciting thing is the new movie they want to make, Toho, is most of the Godzilla movies were really just Japanese movies for the most part, and this one is their attempt is to appeal on a global scale. And they're not going to be able to reach the $200 million budget that Gareth Edwards Legendary Pictures had from this year's Godzilla, which was an amazing movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, I believe it's already out on DVD. It should be. I'm certain it is. Definitely worth checking that one out. Now, while they can't reach the $200 million that Legendary did, they expect with advancements in CG and stuff like that they'll still be able to make a pretty respectable movie. So that's going to be really awesome to see. It'll be their 29th take on Godzilla. Their 28th was in 2004. Yes, it was in 2004. They did Godzilla Final Wars, I want to say. Oh yeah, that's right. Godzilla Final Wars was the last Toho movie. Came out again, like I said, in 2004, and since then the character's been pretty much on ice. And then, of course, 2014 saw again Legendary Pictures Godzilla, which earned $525 million. It was a really good movie, really worth it if you're an old school Godzilla fan. As I found out, many people are. I myself am too. I love the big guy. I found an interesting stat, though, about from this new movie, from the Gareth Edwards movie. He, let me get the exact time here. He took over 45 minutes. Yeah, that's right. He took 45 minutes until somebody even said Godzilla in the movie. And it's just interesting. It got me thinking about the true way to make a good monster movie is really hold off on the reveal. And it got me thinking about it, and I looked into it, and I found really interesting how long it took a lot of different movie monsters before they actually showed up in their own movies. For example, Godzilla in his very first movie, which was Gojira from Toho Studios, 1954, Godzilla doesn't even make a full shot. A full shot of Godzilla does not appear in this movie till 46 and a half minutes in. And he's only in the movie for a total screen time of 7 minutes and 55 seconds. It reminds me of the stories I always used to hear about the old Dracula stuff with like Bela Lugosi and stuff, where in the old movies you wouldn't see everything like you do now. You know, you'd wait and you wait and wait, and you'd finally see him, and he's just holding his cape over his face and raising his eyebrows, and it's supposed to be scary, and it freaked people out back then. Because it's terrifying. The unknown is terrifying. It is to this day, but now with movies, we got Saw movies, and I like the Saw movies. A horror movie will be a topic for another day, but I like the Saw movies and stuff like that, but they feel the need to show you everything to really freak you out. And with monster movies like this, a good monster movie, it really takes you back because it's what you don't see that scares you. Like, what the hell could this thing be? For example, the Blob. That was a really shy monster. He doesn't show up till 21 minutes and 47 seconds in. And he only was in the movie for a grand total of 1 minute and 26 seconds is the total screen time that the Blob had in the movie. It's hilarious. And this one I found really interesting as I started thinking Jaws. Now you could argue whether or not it's a monster because it is just a shark, but whatever. Sharks can be scary. They're monsters. Doesn't show up for a full shot until 76 minutes and 50 seconds into the movie, and only in it for a total of 4 minutes. This one had an interesting story to it, though. Spielberg planned for the shark to appear way more frequently and be in every other scene, just be a big presence in all this. Well, the shark ended up breaking, and the animatronic robotic one they had built, so they had to wait a long time for it to get fixed. And during that time, they just had to shoot around it, so they added more with the characters and more establishing who people are and stuff like that. And then when the monster actually shows up is when they finally got it up and running. And Spielberg says to this day, best thing that could have happened, because it wouldn't have been scary at all. You would have been seeing Jaws every 4 minutes. You would have gotten to see him way too much. It wouldn't have been scary anymore. So he says, best thing that could have happened to this movie was the shark breaking. And then, of course, Ridley Scott's Alien film in 1979, one of the all-time sci-fi classics. First full shot of the xenomorph wasn't until 1 hour and 8 minutes in, and it spends 3 minutes 36 seconds in the movie, in the total movie. And then there's M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. It's not really a monster, it's an alien, but whatever, I'm counting it. 58 minutes 19 seconds till we see the alien, and then it's 1 minute 50 seconds total. The alien really only had the one scene where we saw Joaquin Phoenix beat it to death with a bat, which if you haven't seen Signs, it's worth it just to wait for that scene. Pretty good. Cloverfield, made in the vein of J.J. Abrams produced film, made in the vein of a Godzilla monster flick sort of thing. That was an interesting one. It was found footage, which I'm not the biggest found footage guy. I could take it or leave it. I don't mind it sometimes, but in this case I liked it, especially because we saw a real interesting take on a smaller view of what happens when there's a monster attacking a city. We always look at it from Godzilla's perspective, from the monster's perspective, wrecking everything and stuff like that. But this was really interesting because you don't know what this thing is. They're barely getting good glimpses of it. In fact, we don't even see a full shot of it until 1 hour 4 minutes. And then it spends 3 minutes 26 seconds, I should say, on screen. It was really interesting. And then finally I ended it with Super 8, another, J.J. Abrams again. J.J. Abrams, the ultimate Hollywood nerd. Full shot of the monster from Super 8, 1 hour, 24 minutes, and it spends 2.5 minutes on screen. So I found that really interesting that some of the best movie monsters really wait to show up and make their mark. Now, what I did ask people is because obviously asking them who's the best monster didn't... I should also bring this up too. Not specifically Godzilla, but may soon tie into it is the prequel to King Kong that will be in theaters. It was originally going to be November 4th, 2016, but now that things are getting set in stone with Doctor Strange, they've decided it's best to not come out that same weekend, especially because they have veteran Marvel actor Tom Hiddleston, of course, the well-known and respected for playing Loki. Tom Hiddleston starring in the King Kong prequel. It was originally going to be called Skull Island. Now it's Kong Skull Island, because everybody loves colons or whatever. So Kong Skull Island, it is moved from November 4th, 2016 to March 10th, 2017. Now, the reason I bring that up is that a pretty interesting theory right now is because it's Legendary Pictures, they may be building the Godzilla franchises and the King Kong franchises into the greatest rematch of all time. I should put his name first. Godzilla versus King Kong. If they remade a modern version of that, if they put, with an American budget in theaters here, Legendary Pictures, that would be huge. I would absolutely be there, and that would be awesome. Cannot be understated. Godzilla versus King Kong would be pretty damn good, as long as they keep Peter Jackson far, far away from King Kong, because that latest remake was not good, and it was very, very long. So you got a long time to soak in how bad it was. Now, what I did do is I asked people on the Godzilla subreddit, which is Godzilla. That's the name of it, if you'd like to go there. Reddit.com/r/Godzilla. I asked them of Godzilla's foes, because there is many. Are many. I don't know. I don't know. There are a great deal of Godzilla foes and monsters he's fought and dealt with. So I asked everybody, of all of them, who would win? We know Godzilla's top dog, king of the monsters. That title he earned. No one's taken that from him. My question is, you take Godzilla out of the match, you take all of his foes, they square off, battle royale, anything goes. Who's gonna win? I highlighted a couple of the answers I got. I tallied up the voting, but I'll just focus on these answers that I took here. We start with user Zilla Master, said, I'd say Heisei Mechagodzilla. He was the closest to killing Godzilla, if I recall. A little explanation. Heisei refers to an era. It's H-E-I-S-E-I. If I'm mispronouncing that, I am sorry, but I also don't care. Heisei Godzilla was a period of time, I believe, from 1980 to 98, something like that. Again, if I'm wrong, I apologize. Please correct me. If you're watching this on YouTube, why don't you go ahead and leave a comment correcting me, telling me my pronunciation sucks, or that I have the wrong era, or anything like that. Go right on ahead. If you're not watching this on YouTube, remember to go find it on YouTube and subscribe to the channel as well, by the way. Anyways, Heisei Mechagodzilla, also technically referred to as Mechagodzilla 2, from the movie Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, is a giant robot Godzilla, as you would expect based on the name Mechagodzilla. He is the second model, hence the Mechagodzilla 2. And then we get to user Benjamin 1391, hell of a year. He says Orga. He says, hear me out on this. First of all, I should also say, Orga is this alien Godzilla hybrid. He appeared in Godzilla 2000 Millennium, which, as you would imagine, came out in 1999. So he's a hybrid alien Godzilla thing with like a humpback. It's hard to explain, but I hope I did justice. He also has shoulder cannons, so for the record. He says, Orga, hear me out on this. First of all, Orga's shoulder cannon beams fire with enough force to send Godzilla flying, plus some buildings along with it. Seems to have incredible range as well. Secondly, Orga stole Godzilla's regenerative abilities several times in G2000. Godzilla blasted chunks of Orga's face, head, and the like, and he grew them back rather quickly. He even survived an incredible beam onslaught that hit him, that lit him on fire from head to toe. The only way Godzilla beat Orga was with a nuclear pulse from inside Orga. He says, now since Godzilla ain't in this fight, I don't think any monster with the ability to blow Orga up has the ability to blow Orga up from the inside out. Maybe if every other kaiju with a beam attack hit Orga at once, it might be enough. Maybe. But so he's going with Orga. And then we get to user Rouse, I guess you would pronounce that. He says Dorats because time travel or something. Now what Dorats are is they're genetically engineered pets. They look kind of like bats. They basically are bats. They're genetically engineered pets brought to the past from the 23rd century. They appeared in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Now this is the type of stuff that makes me happy to be a nerd. Genetically engineered pets brought to the past, brought to our present from the 23rd century. Just let that soak in. Let's just enjoy that that's a thing. User Soulful Moth, which might be my favorite Reddit handle I've seen so far. User Soulful Moth 77. Says it'll be a toss-up between King Ghidorah and Destroya. Quick little thing. If King Ghidorah is an armless, three-headed dragon, first appeared in Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. King Ghidorah, I'm certain you know what King Ghidorah is. If you know anything about Godzilla, he's, like I said, he's got 3 heads and he's a dragon, so pretty iconic. I think when you think of Godzilla, really, everybody pretty much thinks, you think Godzilla bad guys, everybody thinks, everybody knows Mothra, and then King Ghidorah. I think those would be the 2 first ones you would think of in your head. Even if you don't know their names, those would be, although everyone knows the name of Mothra, it's just Moth with R-A at the end. But everybody, I think, would think of those 2 villains, or those 2 monsters. I don't want to say villains. One's just a big happy moth. So anyway, Soulful Moth 77 says it'll be and I'll explain Destroya in a moment, but he says it'll be a toss-up between King Ghidorah and Destroya. Those 2 are basically the only ones who have ever successfully gone toe-to-toe with Godzilla. The Showa Ghidorah would probably come out on top, solely because he was always battling against multiple enemies, meaning his strength then is greatly superior. Although Heisei Godzilla is much larger and more powerful, and Destroya is crafted right from the essence of Godzilla and is the only enemy to actually kill a Godzilla. Then we move on to user King Organa. King Organa. Is that Princess Leia's dad? Is his Twitter handle named after Princess Leia's dad? Leia Organa, right? Okay, anyways. So they say Gabara, he stole their Christmas, and they all cried about it. Gabara is, Gabara, whatever, is, it's complicated. It's some sort of ogre Oni type of creature from All Monsters Attack. All Monsters Attack is just a bunch of monsters attacking, as the name would suggest. He's pretty weird looking, and he really doesn't look like he's based off of anything that makes any sense. But yeah, apparently, according to Princess Leia's dad, stole their Christmas, so that would give him the edge. Now here we go. This guy says Minya. Minya, if you don't know what Minya is a nickname. It's short for Manila, which is a baby Godzilla that first appeared in Son of Godzilla. It's one of the most adorable creatures I think I've ever seen. And at first when he said Minya, I thought, well, this guy must be joking. Then I looked at his username. It is Minya is a pimp. User Minya is a pimp from Reddit. Thank you very much for that name and for your vote. He says, Minya, now hear me out. Would you expect Minya to win? No, probably not. And that's why he's the winner. He's the ultimate underdog. While all the other monsters are fighting, Minya will just be there in the background, hiding. By the time the final monster defeats all the others, Minya will just use his breath ring and boom, it's over. Very interesting theory. Minya is a pimp. And thank you for your input. User Chicken Man 456. Good names, guys. Good names. This is good this week. Says Skeleturtle because he can use his duper powerful insta-kill venom on all the kaiju. Skeleturtle is a nickname given to a nameless monster that appeared in Mothra vs. Godzilla. It's an irradiated sea turtle. It's kind of like the bones of a sea turtle, I guess, come back to life. It really never was given a name. There was a toy released of it eventually, and the name was, the Japanese is escaping me because I don't speak Japanese, but the name translated to something about the mystery bones of the island, or the bones of Mystery Island, or something like that. A name that doesn't mean anything, that can't be a name at all. It was like a sentence. So people just started calling him Skeleturtle. Skeleton, turtle, self-explanatory. Finally, we get user Johanna Grossa says, I think Destroya would win. He adapts very fast, and the only reason he lost is because he attacked Junior and pissed off Mama Godzilla. Now, Destroya mentioned earlier, obviously, is a prehistoric crustacean fossil that was irradiated by a weapon of mass destruction called the Oxygen Destroyer. So, this powerful sort of atomic bomb sort of deal hits a fossil, brings it to life in this crazy way. It becomes Destroya. Godzilla vs. Destroya was his first appearance. Its first appearance, I guess it's genderless, I don't know, was its first appearance, and now that's 1 vote for Destroya, 1 vote for Skeleturtle, 1 vote for Minya, Gabara, blah, 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 blah. The win goes to Destroya. He gets a half a vote from user Soulful Moth 77, and he gets 1 from Johanna Grossa, and he gets my vote as well. Destroya is a friggin' beast. He looks like a holy terror. literally close your eyes. If you're seeing this on the YouTube, it should be on the screen right now, but if it's not, close your eyes and picture the scariest possible thing you can imagine, then double it. And that's what Destroya looks like. Thanks everybody who participated in this week's conversation topic. Next week's conversation topic is going to be a fun one. It is the Christmas special, so it's going to be time to talk Christmas and what do you want from Santa Claus, and have you been a good nerd this year? And just let me know what's the Christmas mean to you too as well out there in the nerd community. So again, next week's Christmas special. Give me your thoughts on that. Go ahead and I'll share them on the show. All right, that wraps it up for the Godzilla part. Let's move on though. We're going to move on to the TV side of things here. It was an absolutely huge week for anyone who watches Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, before you leave me, if anyone is worried about spoilers, I'll say this: Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was phenomenal this week. This may sound absurd, but Season 1's on Netflix right now. It's worth trying to catch up for, just for this. This show's gotten a bad rep before. The last season was not the best season until obviously the Winter Soldier happened, and it took the toll that it did on the show, and it sent things in a crazy new direction. And Season 2 started strong, and boy did it get even stronger with this ending. So you'll want to go ahead and jump down. If you look down at the synopsis rundown, whatever you'd want to call it, of this week's show, then you can see where to skip to when I'm done talking about this, for those of you who don't want it spoiled. So here we go. I'll give those people 1 minute, and goodbye, everybody. All right, holy freaking hell. This was absolutely huge. So many things happened in this episode. For example, the bad guy, Daniel Whitehall, obviously you saw he got a bullet shot through his chest. I'm not sure he's dead. I don't think he dies so unceremoniously in that way. Now, in the comics, Daniel Whitehall is the Kraken. He is basically the same role, a recruiter for Hydra, but he ends up getting an armor that I believe had like a life support function, if I'm not mistaken, in the comics. But either way, he does get a suit of armor, which is probably what I would imagine would be next for him here. If he returns in March, it would be with a life support armor on him, making him into the Kraken, which would be pretty badass. We saw Agent Ward is still alive, but finally we saw Skye shoot him, so I think he's finally got the idea with Skye that it's not going to happen. He left with Agent 33, the chick with the messed up face, who I am hoping becomes a character in the comics known as Madame Mask. She just wears a gold mask over her face at all times because supposedly it's been scarred, and she doesn't want to show what it looks like or anything. So that's my hopes for her. Agent Trip died, obviously, unfortunately. R.I.P. Trip. Agent Mac we saw is still alive, though, which is a very good thing. And it ends with a mysterious figure with no eyes. Alright, let's get into this. Skye has superpowers. We now see that. Skye now has earthquake sort of seismic abilities. So that's absolutely insane. My thought was that this is what they would be doing with the character. We got it confirmed, basically, that her name... Well, we know her name is Daisy. That was confirmed by her father. And the belief is that she is a character from the comics known as Daisy Johnson. Daisy Johnson's father was a villain named Mr. Hyde, a.k.a. Dr. Calvin Zabo. So that, if you watch the show, that's why her father, who's a doctor with sort of anger problems we've seen, her father introduced himself as Cal. As soon as he said that, as I was watching the show, it just filled in the rest of it for me. Now in the comics, Daisy Johnson was thought first to be... I mean, Daisy Johnson is also known as Quake, is sort of her code name she eventually adopts. Well, Daisy Johnson, her father was Mr. Hyde, like I said, and she was thought to be a mutant, but then it turns out that it was just genetic damage sort of passed down from her father. Well, they took a different approach in this one. As you obviously saw, they go into a... If you didn't see it, I'll say they... And don't care about it being spoiled, I will say the character Skye and another character in the show, Reyna, went into this mysterious chamber and brought this mysterious object that's been the MacGuffin of their show so far this season, the obelisk, and they place it down in the middle of the chamber. The chamber closes around them. The obelisk opens up, and there's some crystals inside of it. Those crystals grow a little bit, and then they release this mist out of them. They breathe it in, and all of a sudden they get like covered in rocks, and then the rocks break away, and there's sort of their new version of themselves is under it, and we see Daisy Johnson sort of shoot off, like I said, some like seismic waves off of her, like force things. That is her earthquake powers that she now has. Now, if you watch the show and don't read the comics, you may have been thinking, what the hell did I just see? So I will explain it this way. It's going to be something that's going to be very big in the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is a process known as Terrigenesis. It is what happens when an Inhuman is exposed to the Terrigen mist, which comes off of the Terrigen crystals. What's an Inhuman? If you don't know what an Inhuman is someone, let's go all the way back, way, I don't even know how far back into the past. We're talking caveman time, Neanderthals, whatever. A bunch of them were abducted. In the comics, they were taken to Uranus. I'm certain it will not be Uranus in the movies. They were taken to another planet by the Kree and experimented on. Their DNA was altered and messed with, and then they sent them back to Earth, and they mate and have children, and life goes on, whatever. Well, what they pass down is what's been called the Inhuman genome, which is that weird DNA gets passed down person to person to person to person. And what that is when they're exposed to these mystical crystals or whatever, when they breathe in the mist from it, it activates the Inhuman genome, and they go through, like we said, Terrigenesis, which is a process of you. In the comics, it would basically be making a cocoon around you, and inside your DNA shuffles and reorganizes into whatever it is that you are, the real version of you, if you will, and activates your Inhuman genome. Now, obviously, they didn't have giant cocoons, but they had people cover, stones grow over them, and sort of like this, basically a cocoon, more or less. Grow over them, and then when they break out, they're their new version of themselves, their version of themselves with powers. Their Inhuman genome has been activated. And we saw her become Quake. Raina, we did not see what she become. Raina, always someone obsessed with vanity and her looks and stuff like that, and sort of because of, she's an attractive woman, she can get whatever she wants and manipulates people and stuff, and she's all about that we're going to be beautiful after this. We're going to go change into what we really are, a beautiful version of ourselves. And she goes through, and all we see is her eye. Her eye looks strange, and she's got these sort of spikes sticking out of her face. We don't see any more of her, and we won't till March. A lot of theories about who she is. The belief, though, is that she will be a character known as Raina in the comics, who's like a reptilian type of person, sort of like a dinosaur attributes, some claws, and I think she has a tail, too. But, obviously an updated, different version of that. So this was an absolute game changer, and humans now exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Absolutely huge. Absolutely. It will be back in March, and it'll be interesting to see where things go from there. Mr. Hyde escaped, and now looks to possibly be the bad guy in the next half of the show. It was the highest ratings since the show premiered, actually, with episode 1. So that's good to see. It tied for number 1 in ratings share of 1.7. So all very good things, all very good signs for the show. So again, that will continue in March. And now that's going to wrap things up for the TV side of things. So we're going to move into this week's Get to Know a Character. I still haven't even officially named this, whatever it is. Like though, every week I help you get to know a different character from the world of comic books. And this week is no different. This week will be the once thought of as a mutant, now just a superhero and former agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daisy Johnson, a.k.a. Quake. Again, she has seismic powers, earthquake powers. She's the daughter of the supervillain Dr. Calvin Zabo, a.k.a. Mr. Hyde, and a prostitute named Jennifer Johnson. Again, she was first thought to be a mutant, later revealed to not actually have the X gene, but her power comes from genetic damage handed down from her father. She first appeared in a miniseries called Secret War. She was created by Brian Michael Bendis and Gabriel Del Otto, visually based off of Angelina Jolie in the movie Hacker. First introduced in Secret War number 2 as just Daisy Johnson. She was a trusted and valued secret weapon of Nick Fury. She gained level 10 S.H.I.E.L.D. security clearance by the time she was 17 years old. Nobody else has done that before. She joined Fury in his secret war in Latveria, which is all a plan against the Prime Minister Lucia von Bardas, was the Prime Minister of Latveria at the time. Fury had actually planned to kill the Prime Minister, but didn't tell the rest of the heroes. He ordered Daisy to destroy the Prime Minister's castle with her still inside. So she brought the whole thing down, and Von Barnes was thought to be dead. Later, 1 year later, it would shockingly appear that she had survived, and everyone on the team's memory was erased except for Daisy Johnson. So all these characters, Wolverine and Captain America and everybody, had fought with her and had a whole war with her, but none of them remember except for her. Really interesting series. It's a miniseries, Secret War. Again, I recommend checking it out, as I do with pretty much every series I bring up. So she would later wind up in a series called Secret Warriors, a team called the Secret Warriors. Fury would later recruit her into a team of all descendants of various heroes and villains. Of course, her being the daughter of Mr. Hyde, and then other characters such as Hellfire, who was a descendant of the original Phantom Rider, Carter Slade, and some other characters like that, Dr. Druid's son, and other people like that. He had recruited these people during the Skrull secret invasion, which was a whole invasion of the body snatchers type of deal, where the Skrulls would kidnap people and then morph into them and replace them. And you know, they wreaked a whole bunch of havoc that way. Daisy, when this team forms, Daisy ends up taking the codename Quake, and the team actually does help a lot during the Skrull secret invasion, saving a bunch of heroes and being there in the final battle at Central Park. Again, that's a really good mini-series, or event series, I would call it as well. But after the secret invasion, the team stuck together in a series called Secret Warriors. It sees her fall in love. It sees her build a father-daughter type relationship with Nick Fury that's really interesting, adds a lot of depth to the character, and square off with the villainous Daniel Whitehall, a.k.a. the Kraken, again, the bad guy from the first half of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a 28-issue run, and it's by Jonathan Hickman. All of it is on Marvel Unlimited, the subscription service they have that allows you to go and digitally read all old comics. That's a really fun series. It's another one I've read. Really enjoyable. Again, it's only 28 issues, and it's by Jonathan Hickman, who's just phenomenal in my opinion. Now we flash forward a little bit. Avengers, Volume 4. Number 19, Captain America retools the Avengers lineup, adds some people, loses some people. He asks Quake to join the team, and she accepts, joining the Avengers for the first time. It also sees the return of Norman Osborn and his military organization, Hammer. But the main point of the issue is Quake officially becomes an Avenger, and it's real interesting because it's becoming an Avenger, going from sort of S.H.I.E.L.D. agent to Avenger is a real jump in the character. They're now sort of right up there with the big boys. So that was really interesting. And then there's another whole sort of series, although this one didn't last too long, less than 20 issues, was Secret Avengers Volume 2, part of the Marvel Now initiative, the soft relaunch of the series. Not a reboot, obviously, but it sees Daisy become the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and leader and commander, whatever, of the Secret Avengers. During the whole story arc, Maria Hill plans to take her down, not kill her, but get her eliminated from her position and take back the role of director, believing it's what's best for S.H.I.E.L.D. And ultimately, she ends up taking the job back. And it's really interesting to see the effect it has on Daisy, going from basically top of the hill in S.H.I.E.L.D. to losing it all and what she resorts to. That's a really good one. And she's actually, you can find her now in Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. Now that Daisy's no longer with S.H.I.E.L.D., she accepts an offer from Bucky Barnes to go out and to the space station that Bucky's working at now. Bucky has a new role. He is what's called the Man at the Wall, where the two of them together protect the Earth from extraterrestrial, interdimensional, and otherwise unknown threats. The whole point of the story in that position and the character and everything is to protect us from stuff that we don't even know about. All these threats that have happened over the years, giant threats, world-destroying threats that we never even knew were a problem. And it was a job that Bucky took from Nick Fury after Nick Fury, I guess you could say retired, violently retired, we'll say. Bucky came in and took the job, and he invited Daisy to come up there with him, and the two of them together are now in that series with some of the craziest art I've ever seen. Really hard to explain, something you gotta see to believe. It's some people don't like it, some people really like it. It's really polarizing stuff. But again, you can find her now in Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, number 3 of which is available on December 24th, Christmas Eve. In other media, she has not appeared in any movie to this date. but she may be able to, as she is now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As for how she fits into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I won't say anything right now, because if you've been listening, then you already know, and if you don't, I don't want to do any spoilers. And she has not appeared in any notable video game as of yet, but that's Daisy Johnson for you, Quake. She's also, by the way, appeared in animated form in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Hero during their version of the Secret Invasion storyline, voiced by Lacey Chabert, the person who voiced Eliza Thornberry in The Wild Thornberrys. So there's that. So that's Daisy Johnson for you. That's Quake. Really interesting character, and really fun researching her and getting to know a little more about her. All right, now I'm going to break down a comic for you. This week's chapter of the ongoing Marvel event Axis. Now, what you need to know before you go into this issue is that Axis saw the Red Skull become, now with part of Professor X's brain in his head, became Red Onslaught. This crazy psychic force monster. And in order to stop him, they thought, well, all the Marvel heroes and eventually Marvel villains too joined into the fight on Genosha. And the idea they came up with was cast this inversion spell. Where it would switch like I've brought up before on the show, switch the moral compass of Onslaught, giving Professor X control, making him a good person, and the Professor X side of the brain would take over. So there's two parts of the spell. There's the Chaos portion and the Order portion. The Chaos portion was done by Scarlet Witch. The Order portion was done by originally Doctor Strange, but he got knocked out, so Doctor Doom came in. The two of them did the spell, and it unfortunately inverted everybody. Everybody on that island got their moral compass shifted. Those there that were villains came back as with heroic intentions, and those there that were heroes came back a little more selfish and a little more dicks. Case in point, Tony Stark. That's why the Superior Iron Man series exists now. Now, going into this series, all you needed to know is that the X-Men, now all about destroying humanity and all mutant this and mutant that, have created a weapon called the genetic bomb, or gene bomb, sorry, and it's meant to blow up and kill every living person on this planet that doesn't have an X gene. So all the non-mutants would be dead. As for some of the heroes, certain guys like Iron Man and the all-new Captain America, Sam Wilson, have formed a group sort of referred to people as Axis, and they're all about making sure things don't go back to the way they were and staying how they consider themselves free, not having to worry about saving people or being heroes or anything like that, or having their mind weighed down. And of course, the X-Men, now led by their greatest foe of all time, Apocalypse, because there was a young clone of Apocalypse named Evan, who went by the codename Genesis. Was a good kid, and he was in the went to the Jean Grey Institute, member of the X-Men. Well, when the inversion happened, it caused the Apocalypse side of him to take over. Now he is back to being full-fledged Apocalypse and leading the X-Men, of course, to wanting everyone dead. And then the last storyline in all this would be Scarlet Witch coming to Latveria, hoping to kill Doctor Doom. Latveria, of course, the country Doctor Doom is the dictator or king or emperor, whatever you want to call it, of. And so she hopes to go there and stop him, but instead she gets stopped by Magneto, now a hero, and Quicksilver, just looking to make sure his sister is not hurt. So that's all the pieces you need to go going into this issue. And we open up with Wasp, by the way, is also a prisoner here. Wasp is now in the comics, she's the wife of Havoc, which is Cyclops' brother. Wasp is a prisoner, and Havoc and Cyclops are standing there, watching her, talking about it's not possible to have just one human live through all this. And he says, you just wish we could do that. And Cyclops says, that's not how it works. And Havoc asks, could you do it? Could you allow your wife to die? And Cyclops says, for the future of our people to end this war, yes. But the real question is, can you? Showing maybe a little hesitation here on the part of Havoc. But before he can answer, Nightcrawler teleports in to warn them that there's some trouble outside. And the trouble is a new group calling themselves the Avengers. I know everybody seems to take that name now, but this group is comprised almost entirely of villains. Carnage, Loki, Absorbing Man, Mystique, Enchantress, Sabretooth, Hobgoblin, all villains wanting to do the right thing now. And that involves stopping the X-Men from killing all of the human race. And they get into the fight, and they square off with the X-Men. They're going at it for a while, and then we flash into the inside their facility where the gene bomb is being guarded by Apocalypse. And it shows, hiding in the vents and the rafters and stuff is Spider-Man and an inverted Deadpool. Deadpool isn't really a bad person. He isn't really a good person. So he didn't become good or bad. Deadpool is a violent person. So when he was inverted, he became peaceful. Some people have called him Monk Pool or Zen Pool. He's all about, inner peace. He's a hippie now. He's a hippie. Spider-Man and Deadpool are in there. They reveal that the whole thing was a distraction. The villain's outside, hoping to get to the gene bomb, but of course Apocalypse is here, so Spider-Man says, well, there goes that plan, there's no way we can stop him, and Deadpool says, no, we can stop him. We just need to teach, we need to teach him to love. We need to teach him to strive for less Age of Apocalypse and more Age of Aquarius. That was my favorite line from this comic. Well, of course, they start fighting, and all the while Deadpool is trying to reason with him. He keeps calling him Evan. He says, come on, Evan, you know this isn't the way, and Apocalypse is not like that, and they're going at it, and of course it's a good battle because Apocalypse is infinitely stronger than Deadpool, but Deadpool can heal, so they go at it for a while. Spider-Man attempts to get over to the device, but Apocalypse stops him. They bust outside and get into the fray, and a really interesting moment is when Nightcrawler has his sword to Spider-Man's throat. He's about to kill him, and then Carnage comes in to save his life. It's funny. Spider-Man even says, he's like, I can't quite make my mouth say thank you, Carnage. Carnage says, no thanks necessary, brother. They're also supposed to be teaming up, I guess, in the next issue. That's insane. Someone who's tried to kill Spider-Man all those years and now saving his life. We have all the mutants going at it and everybody, and Deadpool standing in the middle of this fray, trying to sing to everybody about peace and love and smile on your brothers. Everybody get together, try to love one another. You know the song. So he's trying to encourage everybody. Come on, let's stop this fighting. And then behind him, Apocalypse says, "Love is a lie." Grabs him by the head and smashes it into the ground. Says, "A tool used to control the weak." Now we flash over to Latveria. We'll get to that finishing the fight in a moment. But this is where a big scoop comes. Really earth-shaking in the world of comic books. Earth-shaking for several characters. We have Scarlet Witch trying to fight Magneto, Doctor Doom, and Quicksilver. Quicksilver says, this is not right, Wanda. I'm always going to have your side. I'm just here to protect you. And he says, no, my family has chosen against me. So what I'm going to do is, she says, she's going to have a curse against a curse on her bloodline, is what she calls it. So she's saying to the Lords of Chaos, put a hex on my blood. She says, crush their bones, boil their blood, dry their veins, rupture their souls, end the line. It's a spell that is supposed to affect everyone that shares her blood, everyone that is related to her. Quicksilver drops like a sack of potatoes, but Magneto does not move, and he tends to Quicksilver to make sure he's okay. And Scarlet Witch realizes that this has all been a lie. Whoever told Magneto that he was their father was lying to them, and they've just been a pawn in his game. All the while, Magneto is not their real father. And some people were upset by this revelation. Some fans, claiming it's maybe an attempt to make things more like the movies, which I'll give you that. That's why they did it. But I also saw a pretty interesting post on that someone collected. It was someone put it on Tumblr. Interesting post on Tumblr. Usually that doesn't go hand in hand. But what they did is they took a bunch of old comics and brought up some examples of how there's always been room here, wiggle room, that Magneto is not really their father, that it could always have been someone else. We've never had for sure Magneto as the father. Even when they found out, they were all well into adulthood, and Quicksilver was already having a child of his own, Luna. Of course, the half inhuman, half mutant, who I guess those cancel each other out because she has no powers. But it's always been open for it to be different. It doesn't have to be Magneto. And I think it's really interesting too that it's because it makes it seem like it's not a retcon so much as a big twist that could have been in the works. Probably wasn't, but could have been in the works for a long time now. And I just think that's really interesting. And it's going to be, I think my biggest take here is with comic books in my mind, I'm always looking forward. What's going to be next? What's going to be the new story to read? Magneto has a solo series that's very well written and very well done. And now it gets to be a solo series where we see how does Magneto handle the fact that that his children have actually, it's all been a lie. You know, it's going to be very interesting to see how Magneto deals with that going forward. And then it's also going to be interesting to see in the new Uncanny Avengers series coming out next year, how are Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch going to deal with this? Who is their real father? You know, I'm excited to get some answers. I'm excited to see how they take it going forward. I don't think you can judge the whole decision based on just the reveal. And then we have the a meeting showing there's this organization behind everything here. They're being called the Axis. We have Iron Man. We have Captain America. We have Thor, he's the Odin's son now, if you will. Doesn't have his hammer anymore. We have Luke Cage, we have Medusa, and we have Hulk, whose inversion was pretty stupid. He became a being called Clue, I guess. Clue, K-L-U-H, which is Hulk spelled backwards. They call him the Hulk's Hulk. It's really, I don't know. I could honestly leave that part. It seems pretty dumb to me so far. But anyways, we show their meeting, and they all agree that they're better off with the X-Men and dead, and that they want this all to end, and they'd be better off that way. So they intend to kill the X-Men now. Well, to be fair, though, the X-Men already intended to kill them, so everybody's just going to kill everybody. Speaking of people killing people, we have Apocalypse and Deadpool back at it, and he keeps telling him, he's like, Evan, you got to be in there somewhere. You have to know this is wrong. And he keeps telling him, there is no Evan anymore. You wish to appeal to a part of me that doesn't exist. And he's like, all you did was help my, what did he call him? He says, Evan was a dream, a cocoon, masking what grew within, the true spirit of Ensaba Noor, which is Apocalypse's real name, which means the first one in Egyptian. But anyways, he says, dude, no one liked Ensaba Noor, but everyone loves Evan. He says, Evan's the hope that we can all be better. That no matter where we come from, no matter how bad it was no matter how bad it was or what people expect us to be, nurture can beat nature. I think that was really cool, really, really poignant of Deadpool. But Apocalypse yells at him, you delude yourself, and he blasts him with his eye beams, and he's like, all you did was slaughter my host child, and he just starts mercilessly beating Deadpool. This one particular page, he's just blood everywhere, and just beating him absolutely silly, and he's just covered in blood. And he says, do you see how wrong you are? You believed I could be better. And he says, I am better than you, better than all humans. I am Apocalypse. And he's standing there with all the X-Men behind him, Deadpool's body on the ground as he's holding Deadpool's head up in the air as he ripped it off. He's covered in blood. Now, if you know anything about Deadpool, he's probably not dead because I believe he's reattached his head before. But anyways, it's the gesture of it all. The X-Men standing behind him, and he says, I am Apocalypse. And he said, the end of man is nigh. Last 3 panels of the comic, we cut to the gene bomb counting down. It's at 3, 2, 1 to be continued, and that's how the issue ends. It was a crazy issue, a thrill ride, and I will be breaking down next week. We will be talking about the events and repercussions of Avengers and X-Men number 8. It's been a pretty good series so far. It's had its ups and downs, but I've really enjoyed it overall, and I think it's pretty good. Last thing I want to talk about is on the video game side of things. New game out this week, Marvel Contest of Champions. They released their mobile fighter game. I guess I was a little disappointed in it, but I feel like I set my own expectations too high. I think that's the key to it. Don't set your hopes too high for this. I kept thinking of it as a fighting game, a Mortal Kombat, something like that, which I know you can't get that good on a mobile platform, but it's a freemium game, obviously. The combat is not that in-depth. It's a lot of swipe and poke, which is, fine enough. You've got... in any given fight, you've got 3 different basic ways to attack. a quick attack, a heavy attack, and a charged, really heavy attack. But that one's tough because you got to be uninterrupted while you're charging the attack. And then you've got, you can dodge and you can roll away from them. So it's a pretty simple combat system. But then everybody's got powers. It's you start out with one. As you hit, the more damage you do to them, you fill up your power meter and you just tap the thing and you use whatever that character's power is. I've really enjoyed the fact that there's characters in it that we've never really seen much in other games. Winter Soldier. There's not a lot of times you could fight as Iron Fist. Black Bolt is in it, which is really fun. I've unlocked him. They give you a free character every day, and you can unlock some during quests and stuff like that. But other than that, it's freemium. If you want to buy the character, you can buy the character. But they do leave it open for where you don't have to. And it is another one of those games where it's an energy-based system. Every time you do a fight, you use up some energy in the quest mode, and then you'd have to refill the energy. If you want to do more, or you wait for it to recharge over time. But then they add in a PvP and challenge of the day and stuff like that, where you don't need energy. So I think that fact of it makes it a pretty interesting game. If you try to look at it as a fighting game, it's pretty disappointing. But if you look at it as your typical mobile RPG sort of game, I think it's a very good game, and I think it compares very favorable to other ones like it. So ultimately, it's a free game to own, so if you've got the space for it on your phone, I say go ahead. But I will never spend a dime on it because there's much more important video games and things like that I would rather pay my money for. So thanks so much for listening to this week. That's going to wrap it up. Next week, like I said, it's going to be all Christmas talk. It's going to be a special Christmas episode. I'm going to help you get to know Iceman. My reasoning behind that, snow, Christmas, that's the best I could come up with. I don't care. I'm going to help you get to know Iceman, Bobby Drake, founding member of the X-Men. I'm going to break down Avengers and X-Men Axis number 8. And so much more stuff. It's going to be fun. Remember, tell your friends, and thank you so much for listening, everybody. I will talk to you next week. I'm Eric, and thanks for listening to The Comic Book Nerd.